Okay, Brenton Hund here. I am going to talk with you today about one of my favorite subjects, acoustic treatments. This is something you need if you're interested in music or audio, or if you're an audiophile, you got expensive speakers, you want to buy expensive speakers, you're just interested in general physics of audio. I'm going to give you a quick primer on acoustic treatments. Now first let me start with what it is not. Acoustic treatments is not soundproofing. Soundproofing is different. There's different purposes and there's different applications and different constructions. Soundproofing is when you're trying to stop a sound wave from going through a wall from one room into another. The way you do that is essentially with mass and an air gap and another mass. That stops the sound wave from going from one room to another. We'll talk about this in other videos. So here we are not talking about soundproofing. We are talking about acoustic treatment, okay? So what does that mean? Inside of a room, we want to treat our walls and our corners so that we have the optimal listening experience. So how do we do that? Well, first let's start with what we think the problems are. And let's start with, I think, the worst case scenario is for me, you go to a restaurant and it's one of these industrial restaurants, looks very cool. It's got a concrete floor, got concrete walls, steel windows, and one of these industrial ceilings where it's all just HVAC and steel in the ceilings, and it's all painted black above you. That's the absolute worst nightmare for a listening experience. For me, if I go to dinner in a place like that and try to talk for a couple hours, especially if it's crowded or even if it's not, it's tremendous ear fatigue. It's not that it's loud, because it can be loud and pleasant. It's because it's loud and totally cacophonous. Sound everywhere, bouncing off all of the walls. None of the sound is getting absorbed. It creates a total cacophony. So let's bring this back down into our listening room, whether that's your office, your home theater. It could be a place where you listen to music in your house. Any of these rooms, if you have bare walls, nothing on your floor and nothing on your ceiling, you're creating the worst situation for yourself from a listening experience and a listening perspective. So let's take a look at a quick diagram. Here's your desk, here's you, and here's your pair of speakers. The speakers are emitting sound in all directions at all time. One of those directions is directly at you. Okay, so the sound comes directly from the speaker and it hits your ears, bam, end of story. Another direction that the sound wave can travel from the speaker is out the side. It can hit a wall and then come hit your ear. Yet another direction is it can travel out the back, muffled sound and all kinds of sounds are coming out of the back of the speaker at any given time, goes out to the wall, comes back and hits your ear. Of course, it can go down to the floor and hit your ear, up to the ceiling and hit your ear, off the back wall, off the front wall, off the back wall, off the front wall, then hit your ear. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that in a normal listening experience with no acoustic treatments, you create that same cacophony that we heard in the restaurant when we were there. Sound bouncing off all the walls, hitting your ears at different times. It creates a cacophony that is not pleasing to your ear and is very confusing. By contrast, if we were to put some treatments on those walls and on that ceiling and then some of those corners and on your floor to absorb some of those sounds, we could minimize the cacophony. And that is our goal. Now, how much do we want to minimize our cacophony? It depends on your application. If you're doing vocals recording for a recording studio, or if you're recording vocals for a broadcast, like for a podcast, you generally want a more dead space. Not always the case, but generally a more dead space. If you want a very cheap alternative for a vocal booth, is a walk-in closet that's full of clothes. I've recorded tons of vocals in a walk-in closet that are full of clothes, and it's a great, great vocal booth. Very, very dead in there. Almost all of the sound is absorbed. It's great. If you're recording drums or some other kind of instrument, maybe you want some natural acoustics in the room. So you don't want a totally dead room. You may want some strategically placed acoustic panels. Or if you've got a listening experience like a home theater or even just your office or whatever the case may be, you may just want some strategically placed acoustic panels so that you have some reflection and some absorption so that you're controlling the sound. Okay, so the name of the game here isn't necessarily to absorb all sound, but it's to control the sound. Okay, let's talk about my office. My office here is a weirdly shaped room, which is bad. It's small, that's bad. The ceilings are low, that's bad. From an acoustic standpoint, it's just an echo chamber in here. But when I first built it and first walked in here, I wanted to cry because it sounded so terrible. Really, it sounded terrible. It was unlistenable. I thought it was going to be unusable. I went to Gik Acoustics, which is right out here outside of Atlanta. They're awesome. They have engineers who can help you design your room. They helped me, and they sell premium product. It's compared to buying really expensive speakers, it's very affordable. I would call it pennies on the dollar. In fact, if you're thinking about going out and buying some really expensive speakers and you don't have any acoustic treatments, I would say it's a waste of money. I would say go out for pennies on the dollar, take your existing decent speakers or your existing decent listening situation and throw some acoustic treatment on there almost anywhere, and you're going to improve it immediately, and you will notice. The bare minimum, I would say, is try to put some carpet on the floor, try to be in a room with a couch or something with some fabric, some drapes, anything to absorb the sound is going to improve your situation. But back to the acoustic panels. You hang them like pictures. It's very easy to do. That's sort of the quote unquote, I guess I'd call it premium option. And there's any option in between. You can DIY it, go onto YouTube and search how to make my own acoustic panels. If you at all handy or have any equipment, it's pretty easy to do. There are options in the middle, like putting down some carpet and having some fabric on a furniture, or buying some foam from Amazon, all that kind of thing. So showing you around my office here, you can see I've got acoustic treatments, acoustic panels. They're called 244 bass traps. All that means is just a lot of foamy stuff inside of this acoustic treatment that's 4 inches deep. Hang them on all surfaces where there's going to be a reflection. You hang them on the walls, you hang them in the corners, preferably if you can. It's called a cloud above you. Hang it right above where you're listening. So again, the sound doesn't travel to the ceiling and then hit your ears with some sort of cacophonous delay. Corners are the worst, and especially corners where it meets a ceiling. So where there's 3 areas, you can just imagine that sound banging against the walls and then coming in and hitting your ears. All of that is very bad. So controlling the corners and then controlling some of your targeted surfaces. One trick is you can sit in your seat where you're going to listen and take a mirror and put the mirror on the wall. And if you look at the mirror and you can see one of your speakers, that's an area that you want to treat. That's sort of a cheap way to figure out where to put these acoustic treatments. You can also just sort of move them around and set them there and see, and kind of trial and error, see what sounds best. But generally, the area behind the speakers, right behind the speakers, corners, the areas on the flat surfaces where you're going to get a reflection back to your ear, those are the kinds of places you want to treat. Bottom line, go get some acoustic treatments. If you have any interest whatsoever in upgrading your hi-fi sound, your theater sound, even just listening in your office, or hey, look, if you've got a restaurant or any kind of public space or know somebody who does, tell them to go out and get some acoustic treatments. Put some acoustic treatments. They get that black, everything painted black in this industrial ceiling. Just get some black acoustic treatments. Put them anywhere for starters, or get an engineer to help you strategically place them, and that listening experience will be drastically better than the prior listening experience. And trust me, a lay person might not know, oh wow, this is an acoustically treated room, I'm so happy, but their ear fatigue will be minimized and their enjoyment level will be maximized, and they won't even necessarily know why. Have a better sounding room and you'll have a better experience. That's your lesson on acoustic treatments for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you later.